Hi there. Thanks for downloading, listening to, and watching the Lean Into Artcast, a show where two visual storytellers get together on a weekly basis and think about different things, topics, and ideas that happen when you take on this endeavor of communicating visually. We think hard about this stuff, so you will too. My name is Jerzy Trost. Man, right out of the gate, Rob, I'm a cartoonist and teaching artist. The other host is...
Hey, Jerzy. I am Rob Stenzinger, a user experience designer and also game designer.
You would think after 247 episodes, I would actually be kind of okay at this thing. But it just goes to show there's always room for improvement, right?
Well, and there's just, human error. Talking is complicated. Unboxing your thoughts, running stuff live, making things happen. I think you're pretty darn awesome at this, and I think, that's what having the format where we can just, we make a mistake, we keep rolling, that's awesome. And I don't have Schadenfreude when you make a mistake, but there's something where I'm like, oh, okay, as I often, you pull off a lot. You can talk super fast, really crisp, and I'm like, dang it, look at that. My co-host really puts a high bar up there for me to to live up to. So anyway,
well, let's put high bars out for each other this week because we're entering the season of creative challenges.
The season of what have I done? What have I done to myself?
Most people who are watching this or listening to this probably know, but October, November is a period where there's different creative challenges happen, and they're ones in which you are invited to participate in a public way, which is like Inktober. Oh, I should pull up. Oh, I'm dropping my second camera here. Hold on. There, I'll pull up Inktober at inktober.com. Well, how about we don't join your mailing list yet, Inktober? Let's look at what it is first. There we go. 31 days, 31 drawings, where you draw an inked drawing a day and then share it with an Inktober hashtag. Later on in November, we're going to have Art Soundoff again, which is 30 days, 30 journal microcasts, right? NaNoWriMo, National Write a Novel in a Month is October, I think. Is that right? Yeah. 24-hour comic day, or 24-hour comics day, where you draw a 22-page comic book in 24 hours, or 24-page comic book in 24 hours. A lot of different ways to commit yourself to an extra thing for an entire month. And as I saw somebody on Twitter posted, somewhat jokingly, somewhat sardonically, is I hope everybody's looking forward to Inktober next month, where we do 3 drawings, then get sad, and then don't do it anymore.
Aw. That can happen, right?
Right.
We have talked a lot about creative challenges. It's one of our recurring themes, and one of the outcomes is potentially practicing and not making it to the threshold you were hoping to get to, which I think is fair, because you really are trying something that's a bit above and beyond, out of the ordinary, and I think it can be really easy to feel defeated, right? And I don't know, hopefully maybe just talking about it and, some of our ups and downs a little bit here and there, even freshly in this episode, revisiting some stuff that we for sure mentioned in the past. Hopefully, I don't know if it's just sort of I don't know how malleable that understanding is. Like, if someone listens to one podcast episode, are they going to change their mind about, well, I only posted 3 things. How do I feel about that? I don't know, but maybe we can give someone a toehold on looking at that in a different way.
I hope so. Yeah. As somebody who has completed some of these challenges all the way through, and even hacked the challenge to make it extra challenging for myself, But then other years, not finished. Literally did 4 entries, and then like stuff happened, and I couldn't do it. Right. So I think both of us have some perspective on this that hopefully we can help frame this up a little bit. Also, I want to say before we hit the music to hit to the next section, we covered this topic fairly thoroughly in episode 162, which aired in September of 2016. Around this time, 2 years ago, we did a very long and thorough episode where we're talked about this topic, how we think about creative challenges. So I'm hoping we can approach this one as more like, okay, having this very, I think, thorough and good discussion on it 2 years ago, let's just like sort of see how we feel about it now. Let's check in on it now and see how we feel. In episode 162, we talked a lot about what are the reasons that what are some of the different motivations you could find to participate in a creative challenge? Is it a leveling up thing? Is it a networking thing? Is it a way to generate new intellectual properties for yourself? We looked at a lot of different ideas. I keep throwing my second camera down because I'm not used to having it right here.
Yeah, normally that's clear airspace, right?
For me to do this business, wave my arms around in circles. So anyway, I would encourage people to maybe even stop this episode if you're listening to it after the fact and go back and listen to episode 162 first, then come back and get like the updated version. And we'll link to it in the show notes, which are either in the video description below this or at leadintoart.com or patreon.com/leadintoart. Okay, Rob, are you ready to go into the first section?
I think we're ready.
We are ready. All right, well then how about I do this? I'll play the music. Oh, I can't resist. We got to do the music. For such a long time it was Robotech, and now I think we're with Dragon Ball from now on. It just makes Rob happy, and then seeing Rob happy makes me happy. All right.
Feedback. All right.
All right, so for the first
3, 2, 1 contact, right?
Oh yeah.
A little bit funky, upbeat. I don't know.
Yeah, what happened? I gotta find that audio clip again. We used to use that all the time. That was great.
Oh yeah, you had a really like a boom, boom, boom contact. And we're in. Anyway, so talking about on the ground.
On the ground. What does it look like to participate in one of these creative challenges? Now, I'm going to show my hand a little bit. I'm literally going to show my hand when I'm drawing for in just a second here. And for those who are listening in the audio, we'll do our best to give color commentary as to what I'm doing. But this is going to be one of those ones where watching the video probably is a little bit more beneficial. But I'm also going to give a hint at how I'm thinking about doing the Inktober challenge this year, similar to how I did it a couple years ago. So is it okay if I start with my art demo first?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Keep me honest, Rob. Keep me under, like 5 minutes or so, maybe a little bit, roughly speaking.
Okay, somewhere around 5 minutes. So
somewhere in the neighborhood.
Hey, wait a minute. There's something on this paper.
There's something on this paper already. What? What are you talking about, Jerzy? Yes. So 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, maybe it was 3 years ago now. Maybe 2, I don't know. For Inktober, what I did is the week before October, so the last week of September, I thumbnailed an entire 24-page mini comic story. So this is a printout of the thumbnails in blue. So then I could go in with these tools to clean it up and ink it, and I shipped a page a day for the entirety of Inktober that year. Well, not exactly. I missed a couple days because I was traveling. And so I worked it out to where it's like, okay, I know I could do 24 days in October. Therefore, it'll be a 24-page story. So I actually have a mini comic finished because of the Inktober challenge that year. So, but what I'm going to do this time, I should talk about the tools I got here real quick. This is the Uni Blue Nano Dia Color lead. I love this lead. I think we talked about it in a recent episode of Lean Into Art, and it erases beautifully. It's fantastic. Absolutely love it. And there's my trusty Pentel Twist Erase, which they don't make anymore. A Uniball Sino white gel pen. The Pentel Click Eraser. Which you just extend. Yeah, this eraser is filthy because it sits in my pencil case all the time with a whole bunch of pencils. And then the Pentel Fude brush pen, which you'll see me use in a second. So anyway, these are the tools that I'm probably going to be using for Inktober. And then what I might be doing is just doing one panel, and I might go in with the thumbnails and clean it up just a touch. So just going in with my blue pencil over top of the blue thumbnail, and just sort of refine. But I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But I'm just going to do enough to refine the drawing and add a little bit more details.
So this is not like a complete detailed pencil stage, but it's like you're filling in a few gaps, getting rid of some ambiguity here and there.
Yes, that's a very good way of describing what I'm doing here. So like if I were doing this in Clip Studio Paint, I would actually do a round of rough pencils over top of my thumbnails, and then I would do a round of tighter pencils on top of those roughs. But I'm not going to, so I'm sort of like doing the first two steps, but not the final one. And, oh, what has he got here? Oh, I think he's, I don't even remember what this is.
Looking
is
at
cake?
a pocket watch or something?
No, I think he was supposed to be eating cake there at a cake bar, right? Yeah, you got cake in the background. So, I'll just turn this into,
the Baboon in panel 2 does have like an upward facing cake triangle.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to put that there. See, that's where I'm tightening this up. Makes a lot of sense. Okay. Again, removing that ambiguity, like you said.
Yeah. Getting some consistency, not creating like errors. That's one of the great things about having a couple of steps. Adding a step to your comics can save you time, because in a way that's like a bit of an edit and refinement that costs almost nothing and fits right within this step.
And how do you not? Oh, so I'm looking at the chat real quick. Robert Clemens Jr. is asking, how do you not make a mess with that brush pen? Well, we're about to find out. So I'm going to go in now, and my goal will be to do approximately one panel. I'll do the math when I finish my thumbnails to figure out how many of these I would need to do a day to ship what I want to ship. But let's suppose for a second that there's 30 panels in my story. Is this in the shot still? Okay, there.
Yep.
Then I'll just focus on this one, which would actually make this very manageable. I could do this in like what? Well, we'll find out if I can do this in 5 minutes or less. And I've already been talking a lot, so maybe I only have like 2 or 3 minutes now.
Yeah, you're at 5 minutes already.
Oh, fudge.
Like from the very beginning, where if we would have started the clock there. So, but
okay.
Yeah, you introduced pens and all that.
And so the idea of Inktober is to, well, as I've heard it explained by Jake Parker, who coined it, and from other people who have participated, the idea is to just get yourself reacquainted with drawing with pens on paper again. For those of us who spend a lot of time drawing with lots of different kinds of tools, like digital tools.
Yeah. So, I mean, you are meeting the terms of the challenge, right? By using natural media. And let's see, what is another? So wait a minute. So Inktober, that happens to fall in the month of a holiday celebrated by a variety of cultures, right? Halloween, right? And I think a lot of interpretations of Inktober turn into Halloween-themed challenges, which is, I don't blame them, because as a rich, fantastical, interesting space, well, I mean, you've got lots of monster type visuals to draw from, and other stories and mythology. So it feels like a natural fit. But here you've turned it into, well, I mean, this is a practical project.
Yes, this is the idea behind this, is to have, like, take the challenge, draw on paper again, engage with inking on paper, as per the challenge's sort of stated mission. but then also see if I can add an extra layer of complexity to it in that I'm going to try to have a finished thing to ship at the end of it. This case, with this story that I did years ago, I had, like I said, a finished mini comic at the end. So it's adding a very, I think, mercenary and practical element to the challenge. But it also I'm using that daily check-in to, we talked about this in the whittling episode, where, you know, whittling projects, I've created a framework where I am encouraging myself to whittle by checking in every day and sharing the little bits and pieces of the process. So now what I would do is I would quickly use my white pen to fix that balloon tail, and then I'd go in with my other pen to ink in the dialogue. And with that, I will close my demo section. So that's what Inktober could look like for me this year, is checking in with this printed out sheet of thumbnails, going in with a layer of penciling on top of that, and then a round of inks on top of that. Will I letter it on the paper, or will I letter it digitally? Not sure yet. Not sure. We've got, as Robert Clemens Jr. pointed out in the chat, we've got 10 days at the time of this recording, so you can always decide later. Rob, you want to do your demo now?
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. I'm definitely figuring it out as I go. There's sort of common material that I'd like to or dig into, common in inspirations and whatnot. I really liked the juxtaposition of cute things plus monstery things, or cute things that are also somehow dangerous, right? And that that's a place where I enjoy going with theme and subject matter stuff, and then I really do enjoy the frequent practice in publishing, sharing something, participating in the community, and all that, and then you know there's more to go as far as, like, you know, how do I choose these things and these constraints. But I guess, yeah, just to focus on the demo and the tools, I've mentioned these pens on recent podcasts, but there's the Pilot Fude Mikasa color brush pen, extra fine, and then the Kuretake Bimoji brush, which is, so that's they're basically two different brush pens that have a tightness to them, right? It takes a lot of pressure to, so I don't have to sort of calibrate myself to be like, oh, all right, I'm about to draw with a brush. I need to get some flow and looseness or whatever. It's a pretty low risk brush to work with. And then I'm starting out with some red pencil that, let's see. So this is a Pentel Twist Erase GT, right?
So that's like the modern version of my pencil.
Yeah. And I'm using I think it's the Pentel red lead. I happen to have one as well that's blue, so I put a piece of masking tape on each and used a marker to help me know which pen. Otherwise, it's not very easy to just stare at the tip, going like, "Are you blue or are you red?" And it's this little tip. And so I tend to, if I'm going to do multiple layers of pencil, I will start with the red and then go to blue, and try to do both of them pretty lightly. Let's see, which pen do I feel like working with? I will start inking this little guy, and I guess my subject is a monster, or monster reacting to another little monster. And I'm not going to tighten up the pencils, which I will talk about more in the second half. And
so it looks like and I'm interested in the sizes of the pages that we're working with here, because you are working on what looks like an index card.
I'm working slightly smaller than an index card.
Okay.
So an index card is roughly maybe slightly less than
3x5?
1/4 of a page, right?
Yeah.
And this is more like 1/8 of a page. So this is half of a quarter of a page. Basic math, everybody.
Okay. And it looks like the tip of that pen is like a little stiffer than the one I was using. Is that a felt tip?
What is it? It is not a felt tip unless it's like it's some hybrid of plastic and felt.
Interesting.
Yeah, get close in there. So it's a sturdy brush. It has some line expressiveness, more than like your sort of tiny barrel shaped nub, slightly rounded felt pen. But
while you're working, Robert Clemens Jr. is asking in the chat, are there any other examples of people hacking Inktober to finish a comic book at the end? And he brought up Cam Kendall's Mortimer, what was it? The name, I supported his Kickstarter to get the book. Mortimer B. Radley and the Missing Monkey Skull. Cam Kendall. Cam Kendall's an amazing cartoonist that we got to get on the show eventually. We've been meaning to for a long time. And then, yeah, mine was called A Friendly Game, but I want to put out a call to everybody who's listening. Does anybody else know of any other examples? Because I'd be curious to see anybody else's. I've seen lots of sketchbooks produced out of Inktober, but I have not seen any other mini comics or comic books. So, Rob, you went in with the red pencil and did a fairly loose sketch.
Oh, quite loose.
And now, I mean, you're getting pretty tight pretty quick here. So...
yeah, I'm using symbols I'm fairly familiar with, right? So I'm drawing from a library of, drawing a quick discount suit is not a unfamiliar thing.
Right. We've talked about this before on the show, like when taking these challenges, part of a way to ensure success is to pick things that are easy for you to draw. Like the challenge itself is like possibly like reacquainting yourself with a tool or learning if it's learning a new tool or playing with a tool set that you don't get to use as often as you would like. Well, why stack the deck against yourself by saying like, well, I'm also going to draw this. I'm going to draw horses. Because, everybody's awesome at drawing horses, right?
Sure. Or bicycles in perspective. That's a classic.
Yeah, that's another one.
Way to throw the challenge off, actually.
Although that could be the hack that you're trying to go for, right? If I drew
horses, like 30 bicycles in perspective, I bet I'll be more comfortable by the end.
Yes.
So, yeah, there's...
So we've got well-dressed, happy monster goblin guy dancing. Oh, and there's another little guy in the background?
Yep.
Oh, I see what's going on. It was kind of hard to see from your pencils. He's not dancing. He's jumping with surprise. And another smaller creature on the floor.
Yep. There you go. Okay.
Monster who's scared of littler monsters. There you go. And that was, again, that too was like 5 minutes or less, right? So like minimal commitment on these ones.
Yeah. And if I don't know, if I wanted to go further, I could use these Tombow brushes to do some quick
you gotta get some shading in there.
Yeah, quick shading.
Or, well, like gray toning.
Yeah. A little of both, because if I grab a couple of different values of these, I can do both toning and shading. So just even layering a couple different ones on top of one another can get you some of that shading effect. Sorry for my mic technique during this demo.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to stay like really tight on your mic while you're drawing.
All right.
On a little tiny thing. I'll run a normalization filter over the audio before it gets posted. Hopefully that'll help.
Cool.
Okay, that looks great. I mean, that looks, you satisfied the commitment, like you said, of putting ink to paper. Let's see those pens up close. What are those?
Yeah, I forgot to mention them actually. So yeah, Tombow. What are they? They're just what I forget. This one it wore off. What it is, but it's the slightly darker value, and so I've got an N95, N89, and then don't know darker.
Again, we can link to these in the show notes.
Yeah, and then they have like your sort of Copic marker type of. It's not. I say spongy, but not. I don't mean that in a negative way. It has it has some brush like give and flexibility, but it's fairly stable and predictable. It will not branch out in hairs and strands.
Which the brush pen I use does have that issue when the pen starts to dry out.
Yeah,
bristles can but before I put it away, I roll it to a point on a sheet of paper to make sure that the bristles don't fray.
Which, if you're starting to use that brush for dry brush techniques, do you like a little bit of the?
Oh yeah. I have a really old one that I intentionally use for dry brush effect, and it's totally torqued. I mean, it's almost like flat, like that now.
Oh wow,
So-
that would be a neat brush tip, like a flattish, small brush.
Oh yeah, well you can get refillable water brushes that do that. So like you could yeah, I just so let me get my pencil case.
Okay.
I mean, we've all seen, not to belabor this tool topic too much, but we've all seen these water brushes, these refillable ones that you use for watercoloring or inking. And here's one that I got recently. Oh my goodness gracious, golly. Yeah, so there's...
Oh, it's a chisel tip. Look at that.
Yeah, they come in a variety of tips. So you can do searches for water brushes online and find some pretty cool stuff. Anyway.
All right, nice.
So, very quickly, do you want to talk a little bit about like some of the things we think about when it comes to like what size you want to work on? Because another thing I'm thinking about is like, if I'm going to do a panel or 2 panels at a time, I might print out my pages much bigger this time. Instead of 8.5 by 11, go 11 by 17, which presents a problem with like shrinking it down. But if I'm thumbnailing it roughly the size of what it's going to be, then I know if I blow it up, it'll still be readable when I shrink it back down again.
Right.
But because for me, as I think about this challenge, it's like the extra hack I'm thinking about layering on this year is, can I do what I did with a friendly game, but make it even higher quality? What can I do to do the same kind of idea, but like ship a more higher quality thing at the end? How are you thinking about, or if you're thinking about it yet, how are you thinking about like what size you might want to work for your Inktobers, if you do it?
Okay, so just today, I'm trying to find the overlaps across the different projects I want to work on, the side projects, the things that are that I get to, that I nudge and I make time for, just a little bit here and there. So when a creative challenge comes up, it really pushes against the constraints of my time I have set aside for these things, because I have a family and a day job and all that stuff, and that's it just goes with the territory. And of course, anyone, I mean, whether you're day job that's independent or working for an employer, what have you, everyone's got their pay the bills constraints, right? And so this above and beyond thing that competes with other above and beyond things. And I just realized that, hey, wait a minute. One of the game prototypes I'm working on is it's a card battle game. And I was like, I could use Inktober to draw cards. Perfect. So that's a big candidate. Thinking of, a few days before October begins, thinking, yes, so that might be it. Because before that, I was thinking of, like, do I do a mini comic, or do I just go straight up formula of let the cute monsters let it rain cute monsters and see what happens, right? Because I might end up thinking, getting attached to one, getting curious and imaginative, and a story can happen from that. So even if it seems like, oh, this is just generative play, practice, whatever, there could be something more. And I'm open to that as well. The other angle I thought of, so I'm probably going to work at, I think my favorite size to work with quick drawing is quarter page. And I'd like to get just a ream of cardstock, 110 weight if I can find it. And then I use a paper cutter to slice it into 4, right? And then do that a few times. I've got a whole stack of them. And that's a nice size. And I think that's a pretty good ratio, aspect ratio for a variety of uses. And I think that also for a playing card. Then I was considering, what if I had a rhythm to this? Because I'm like, oh, you know what? It would be neat. Like a couple of Inktober's ago, let's see. It's sitting in the back of my office. I can run and grab it when you're talking.
Okay.
I worked really big for a few of my Inktober days, right? So it'd be neat to have like a rhythm to be like small, 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 big, small, 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 medium, small. I don't know. What if there's a rhythm to it? Which, who knows?
That's cool. You're thinking about like, what is my experience going to be in doing this too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it going to feel like to do this thing over the course of the month?
Because it's like a special occasion, and there are some things like super big drawing. I rarely do super big drawing.
Yeah.
And it's like a treat.
Yeah, no, it's exactly the same here. Exactly. Like when I did the Dino Sword mini comic, which by the way, if you go to patreon.com/Zacules, he's actually selling copies of the book. It's a mini comic that I made with him, a 16-page digest mini comic that I made with him this year. I did the inks at 11 by 17, or 10 by 15 actually, which I haven't worked that size in years. You know, that was the size I did for like the first 10 years of my career. And then, you know, once I started doing digital, it's like I don't work that big. I mean, I can work that big, but I'm still only working on a 12-inch screen. Right?
It feels different, even if it is.
It totally does.
Yeah, mapping to the same largeness.
Yeah, So thinking about I like how you frame that. It's a special occasion. So how can I explore ways to do this in ways that I haven't done or I rarely get to do, right? Like overeating on the holidays.
Right. Or, I mean, I don't dress up like a pirate every day, right? I could. I save it for Halloween. I don't also dress up like I've a couple of Halloween costumes laying around. They get underutilized. Yeah. You know, I'm often not a Jedi either.
Carrie Mushin Girl is in the chat and is adding to this. Also, it's an opportunity to see what shortcuts and hacks you can add to your daily routine to fit in more work. Yeah, absolutely. These kinds of that is one of the learning experiences that are available to us in these creative challenges. And that's another reason that they're so darned exciting to me when we start when they come around every year. I really feel like for me personally, like this feels like this is my holiday season. Like, yes, the holidays are wonderful, but like the drawing challenges are like give me the kind of excitement for this season that the holidays did when I was a kid. All right, Rob, so let's see what you got. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this is a big old guitar phoenix, like pulling up the spirits of two different characters that I've worked with before. Crunchy, the Mystic Guitar, and Battle Axe Bill. And they're brothers who don't get along. But here's the phoenix.
That's the most Rob drawing in the entire world. That's the Robest of Rob drawings. All right.
Yeah, all right.
Go.
Anyway.
Let's see. No, show me the other one.
Oh no, there's other ones too. This is like a I don't know, like a knockoff dragon from the east that is dark and moody.
Yeah, and then also you got like that sort of yin yang composition going on with it, with all the black curling around and the white curling around underneath. I don't know if you did that on purpose or not, but
there was there's a few different things here. The composition, it's something that is that I roughed in, but I was moving fast. I mean, I can see so many things that I would normally throw on a Dragon that didn't make it on this one, even though it's in a large format. And
Well, it's almost a silhouette, right? Like the way you did it.
It's close to a silhouette. There are in person. I actually used a like a white pen on top too to add details because I hadn't done that much. I was like, okay, here I am, special occasion. Busting out the fancy china, basically, right?
I like this metaphor. I really like. I think we should keep running with that one as we talk about this in the future. And I guess like the next thing I would say, like, so like we're both talking about like doing like generation of product through like layering that on top of the challenge. But then like other things I think about in terms of like what size I work with and what materials I work with is also like, okay, well, is this going to be a thing I give away? Right? Like, so like when I do art drops, it's like, I think 4 by 6 inches like paper is like the optimal size to work with it. Like it demands that I don't put too much, like I don't fuss over it too much. It's small enough that I can hide. So like if let's say you're going to do an Inktober and you're going to like leave them around different public places, right? To be found by people. An 11 by 17 sheet of paper isn't really conducive to that. It could be, but like the 4 by 6, it seems like a really great size. Or is it going to be something you collect into a sketchbook? So are you scanning them? Like one of a couple years ago, in 2015, the Inktober I did was a series. It was like a themed series of drawings of the characters from Boulder and Fleet, which I collected as a sketchbook and I sell at shows now. So as I was finishing them all, I was scanning them. Because then I also made them a special tier on my Patreon to say like, hey, if you pledge at this level, I will mail you one of my Inktober sketches this year. So they had to be scanned before they were mailed out. Anyway, so yeah, thinking
about
good reuse. What is, yeah, well, trying to get multiple uses out of the things, and like so, I try to think like what's going to be the life cycle of this thing. What does its existence look like after it's done, or is it just that it's going to be in a sketchbook and that's it? That's all. It doesn't have to be anything more than that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, the practice itself is worthwhile.
Do you want to take a break and then come back and talk a little bit more about some of the abstract aspects of this creative challenge topic?
Talk about like the reality of actually doing it again.
Yeah, and how do we feel about that? Like, are we all in on this?
You with me, buddy?
Having met the shark a couple times, do we want to go back out there?
It's very chompy.
They're very chompy. All right, so we'll come back in a minute and a half and talk about how we feel about the creative challenges in 2018, and think a little bit harder on some of the whys of doing this stuff and how our relationship has changed with it, where we stand on it now. Before we do that, we got to thank some people who make this show possible. Those people happen to be the folks who support us on Patreon. Yes. Patreon.com/leanintoart is the website. And what is it? It is a way for you to say, I believe in Rob and Jerzy. I believe in the work they do, and I want to support it for as little as $1 a month, whatever you can afford. But it starts at $1, and then you can cancel it at any time. You can just pledge for like a month. You can say like, hey, this month I'm going to pledge this month or this amount for this month, and then I'm going to avail myself of all the stuff that's in the feed, because like we post things like all the episodes as well as the extra leans, the shows that we record only for people who support us on Patreon. You can go in, download them all in 1 month, and then just, take a break. You don't have to do it every month. Anyway, we want to thank 5 people who have been supporting us on a regular basis. First up, Mike White. Mike White you can find on Instagram at FE Follies. Thank you, Mike. Jesse Kaufman, longtime friend of the show. You can find Jesse on Twitter at Jesse Kaufman, KAUFFMAN. And then the mysterious K, once again. We have to thank you. We don't know who you are, but we appreciate the fact that you step up to support us every month. Shawnee Redfearn, thank you, Shawnee. You can find Shawnee on Twitter at Shawnee Redfearn. Again, these will all be linked in the show notes. And finally, Brandon Dayton, the originator of the Sketchbook Summer Creative Challenge. And with a book out this month, Green Monk, comes out in stores this month. You should get it. You can find Brandon on Twitter at Brandon Dayton. We want to thank everybody who has been supporting us at patreon.com/leanintoart. It means a lot to us.
Mm-hmm. Sure does. Thank you.
Okay. Wow. Music time?
Yeah. How are we transitioning?
Oh, something a little bit more leaded. ponderous, mysterious. How do we feel about creative challenges in 2018? 10,000 feet up. All right. You know, you talked at the top of the episode about like we all have lives and families and all sorts of pressures in our lives, and I feel like those pressures like keep crowding in more and more. And I don't mean that is a complaint. I mean like life is very full, and that's wonderful. But that means that bandwidth is always a constraint, and it feels like, you know, like when I was talking about doing the Inktober the way I was thinking about doing it, Robert Clemens Jr. in the chat was like, you know, danger, danger, Jerzy. I responded, courage, courage. But you know, how do you plan on negotiating with the bandwidth issue? That is, it's going to happen. You're going to run into some frictions with the bandwidth.
I've been wrestling with this, to be honest, just week after week as that you know, we get closer to October. Yeah, it's they are significant projects, hopefully with significant insights and experiences that come from them. And I feel probably more daunted than any year past. So I'm just sitting with that and thinking why, and thinking like, well, what makes that different? Because, you know, I still find it attractive as an idea, right? It's not like I have gone to a different phase of my life where I'm like, well, you know, I guess I'm done with creative challenges. But I am trying to relate to them differently. And that's especially last year, I think I started doing that, where like one way, and I think I might continue what I started last year, which is instead of like committing severely and going like, I'm in 100% every day, whatever happens, I will get that out there and whatever. Or if I, you know, miss one by a few hours, fine, I'll get sleep and I'll get it the next day and I'll get that day too. And I'm staying caught up, you know, no matter what. And that has I find that appealing still, but, it's actually nice to practice a less intense way to engage with it. So like last year's art sound off, I think I recorded 24 episodes.
I know I missed some last year because I was traveling, and I was in Death Valley, so like I hardly had, I don't think I had any internet. I think there's Wi-Fi in the hotel, but it wasn't awesome. And when we left the hotel, it's like I had zero cell signal there. So yeah, there was like it was almost like my vacation choice took the decision out of my hands, which was a nice way to like sort of let myself off the hook. And yeah, I missed 4 or 5 days of that month.
But okay, you missed some days. But how do you feel about that? The missing and like whatever the result was.
I felt like the trip to Death Valley gave me big. Oh man, I've been using this gesture a lot lately, Rob, where I just push my arms out like this and push my head down. Like I feel like if only I could airbend and like all this bandwidth closes in on me, just go whoo and push my arms out like that, and everything would just
feels good.
Fly away.
I like that.
Yeah. This is what I need most sometimes. It's just that feeling of pushing the arms out sideways like that, just push everything away. And I felt like that trip was that, which gave me an experience and a perspective shift that helped me come back to doing it, I think, with more richness and more enthusiasm and more new perspective. So it made the thing better overall. And this is like, I feel like I have friends who refuse to take sick days, and I argue with them that if you don't, then you're just going to do a poorer job overall. Like, there's nothing heroic about showing up to do a thing at 20% capacity because, you know, you're showing that you're committed. Yeah, we know you're committed. So be committed enough to stay home or go back to bed, get more energy so that when you come back, you do a better job overall.
Hmm.
That's how I like to think about that. So yeah, and also, I mean, like, yeah, I want to ship a little bit every day to keep that signal going and to keep people interested and excited about what I'm doing. That's why when you do a webcomic, you do it on a regular basis. But at the same time, everybody else has like a lot of signals coming in. A relatively small portion of the population is looking at their watch and tapping their foot, waiting for my next free thing to drop. So, it's like there's that too. It's like, yeah, it's nice when people are disappointed because you didn't ship a thing when you said you would, but there's no heartbeat on the line with this either. So,
well, I mean, yeah, different projects. I think it's unreasonable to engage with constraints with infinite severity all the time.
yeah,
Where it just, well, okay. I mean, some deadlines really are critical, and communication is always critical. Find a way to, work that out, right? The constraints and the sustainability of a project, chances are, well, especially when it's one of these things, it's a voluntary creative challenge. Your excitement and passion for it may outpace your capacity to execute, or it might not, right? You may find out, but that's something that you get to discover as you go and you apply. And if you find out you're bumping up against where I'm at my limit today, I need sleep, right? Or I need to get away from my desk because, live by the sword, die by the sword. Same with the desk, right? Where get up and move. That's really important. Or anything that could, say, hi, I exist also. And, pets, loved ones, whatever. It just, there's other things. And it is kind of wild when it's like, oh, I was able to fit this creative challenge and do this for every day. How interesting. And also interesting is when it didn't fit and why. And having the vacation and what did that mean? It might mean more than the simple execution of, like, that may hide potential things you could learn if, without meeting the constraints. Or honestly, maybe for you, it's too easy and you need something way harder. And that's possible. So, I mean,
yeah, I was thinking
like,
about this. I was thinking about this in the first part of the show when we were talking about, I was thinking about how there was like almost a spectrum between, like, okay, am I just going to do cute monster drawings all month, or am I going to do product development, right?
yeah.
And I feel like cute monster drawings means, like, okay, very flexible. I can fit it into a lot of places because it's a lower commitment. But that also means it could be that you get bored and quit more easily because, like, there's less motivating you. Maybe you need the harder challenge to get to be like, no, I really want to develop this thing. Or the harder challenge could also be, like, looking at it from both sides. It could be like, well, now you're just dooming yourself because if it starts to get too difficult, or if other pressures start to get in the way, now you're going to bail on it. Now you have more reason to quit because it's so insurmountable, right?
There's a relationship between you and the challenge, and, like, that's an individual thing to navigate. And because it could be, like, I could believe that it might be relaxing and feel good to just consistently put out something little every day. It's been actually quite a while for me personally since I've done that consistently. And, but then, yeah, I could see being bored with it. And, that's where that's, fine tuning it somehow. And, I guess I'm a fan of having a bit of intention ahead of time, saying, like, well, this is what I wanted to have happen, and then see how it goes, and then look back and say, well, did it happen? And what does that mean?
And again, I'll point at episode 162 because we did a whole section in there talking about, like, how capturing and journaling during the experience yields great results, like you were describing. Like, okay, I didn't get to do it today. Why? What happened? What was going on around me? What was going on in my head? What was my behavior? What was the behavior of people around me?
Mm-hmm.
Having some kind of record at the end to look at, to reflect on what you did in that month. I think we both feel pretty strongly that that's another layer of learning that can be derived from a creative challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah. I still so that feeling hasn't changed. Leaving behind some trail that records your experience, even just little sentences here and there, a tiny log of some sort, is it's valuable, because for me, I will forget things about the challenging days that I think during that day I'm not going to forget this. Oh my gosh. Then 2 weeks later I'd be like, what was that thing that was so in my bonnet that day? Anyway.
Yeah. So
it goes.
Mushin Girl Carrie is in the chat, throwing in on the topic of what we were talking about just a few moments ago. I also like the thought that if life does stop me from meeting the challenge, the product to ship will keep me working on it even after the challenge period has expired. That is a pretty good motivator, right? It's like, so what? I didn't finish the Inktober challenge and I didn't ship every day. Well, that's okay, because I've got ground gained on this thing that's going to feel good for me to ship at the end.
Absolutely. And that's where I've used some Inktobers to do dabbling product development, where it took the pressure off of finishing any particular comic or set of characters to design, and it let me just sort of do that product development, but with it's almost like a medium level of pressure for me, where it's like, oh, got the thing, going to do it every day, not going to tune up the technique level of challenge too extreme, but serious enough to be like, well, these are meant to be characters that I can put into a story. That's been handy. And I might have picked up that habit probably during the, I don't know if it's happening anymore, but the 30 characters in 30 days challenge.
That was one
from a few years back that Tyler James started.
Comics Tribe.
Yeah.
So the way I'm planning on managing the bandwidth issue this year, because I'm teaching 4 days a week in October, plus I'm doing an ongoing webcomic, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Plus I got to start some other freelance jobs that are coming up for the fall and winter. So I've got a lot of different bandwidth, issues going on there. So, and this is where I think, having done it having done it multiple years, I think, what is this, my 5th or 6th time doing Inktober? I don't remember, but has given me that perspective. The reflection and the multiple times going through the experience has given me some perspective on this to think about how to manage it. I think if this is your first time doing it, I think you just got to crash into those walls, right? You can have all the plans in the world, but plans never survive contact with the ground, as that saying goes. The plans are there to say, I hope it goes this way, but I've thought it through carefully so that when I do bump into the wall, I have some kind of recourse. So, having done a 24-page mini comic during Inktober, which I was successful at it, I pulled it off, but I noticed that there were plenty of times where it was tough to get that, and I was only spending an hour. I was inking a page in an hour, which was
wow,
very, very quickly for me. But still, there was trade-offs in terms of image quality. There's trade-offs in terms of the lettering quality, and then there was trade-offs in terms of finding that hour was really, really challenging. So to manage it this time, I thought, okay, well, what if I made it an 8-page mini comic? Only doing 8 pages, which means now I can divide all the panels in this 8-page mini comic.
That's how you're going to do it.
Distributed across 30 days, right? So instead of doing a 24 shipping a page a day, I'm shipping a couple panels a day, which means now I can focus on upping the quality while also making it much more manageable. So let's say I only got 1 panel done today. I meant to get 2, but I only got 1 done. Well, that panel gets shifted over to the next day, right? So I got a little bit of flexibility on this that I didn't have with a friendly game. So,
I think, speaking for myself, possibly the people in the chat and the listeners, all breathe a sigh of relief for your health. Because I was like, oh my, he's going to do 24 pages, huge, and the panels. And I'm like, oh boy. Oh, that's going to hurt.
Yeah,
But,
no, that wouldn't
this
work.
sounds interesting, challenging, yet doable.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's like, so in terms of like managing bandwidth, it's like, well, there's certain non-negotiable items that I have to contend with. I have to teach 4 days a week. I have to begin development of a new 40-page comic that's going to go into production this winter. I'm going to be shipping a page a week of an ongoing webcomic that I made a commitment to another person about. These are all non-negotiable items, right? So, okay, well, with what time I have left, how can I make, this goes back to a term you've used a lot, Rob, is what's the minimum viable product I can get with the resources that I have available to me? How can I tweak it?
So that makes sense. We've talked a lot about Inktober, but I'm curious to just visit quickly. Are there any things you're thinking about when it comes to art Soundoff, as far as making that more doable and fitting into your bandwidth?
So I'm hoping that during Inktober I'll have some time to think about this with all this other stuff I'm doing. But I plan on sort of letting that be part of the background radiation of thinking that happens over the course of October. Because one of the ways I've wanted to hack Art Soundoff is the similar way I've hacked Inktober. I'd love there to be some kind of product development over the course of it. So if those, again, Art Soundoff is a challenge that we created, 7 years ago now?
No, 4 or 5.
4 or 5 years. Okay, well, that's
somewhere in there.
That's more than 2.
1, 2, 3, 4. This might be the 4th year or the 5th year.
Oh,
I don't know.
We will have to check.
Yeah.
But we like Inktober, instead of drawing every day, we challenge everybody to do a journal microcast every day. And this is something I think goes for Inktober as well, as a hack that some people did last year that I really liked is some people just didn't share them. They recorded them. They got the practice of verbalizing their thoughts, but then they didn't post them publicly. Right.
That's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if the challenge of Inktober is just to get reacquainted with putting ink on paper, you don't have to share that publicly to be a participant. You can participate privately and see everybody else's posts coming in and have that sense of community in the sense that you're playing alongside of these people, but you don't have to actually post them online. So anyway, but with Art Soundoff, I thought, and I've been thinking about this for a couple of years now, I was like, how can I turn this 30 days of journal microcasting into developing something that I can turn into a product of some sort, which again sounds very mercenary, very capitalistic, but I derive a lot of pleasure out of explicit value in what I do, and creating a sense of I can define what the value of this thing is, right? For better or worse, that's one of my tics, right?
Uh-huh. I'm stuck back on your calling it. It sounds very capitalistic. No, nope. No, it sounds not at all. It sounds like an artist who has the style of engaging with why they do it, right? So some artists aren't about that. That's not comfortable territory because the questioning kind of ruins magic and what have you, and that's fine. But but it's still art when we think a lot about it, and have intentions that as far as output, because to make more art, we need to eat too. So that I'm obviously preaching to the choir, but the developing a product alongside of it or with it, so it does not to me sound like a hostile takeover of a corporation. Or
yes, okay.
Or let's say starting a business near where you have the volume to undercut an existing player and then just killing them because you can eat the money and they can't. That's super capitalist.
Right. So
sorry for that side point.
Yeah, no, thank you for the course correction on that. Reframe.
I like your kind of capitalism. This is what I'm saying. All right. So you were saying The let's see. I totally threw you off, and I.
Oh no. So, I thought last year, like maybe I can, like quickly create like an outline of like a first draft of a book on a topic, an audiobook on a topic. Like, what are the 30? How could I divide a particular topic people have been asking me to do a workshop about into 30 pieces, and so the whole month will be me just checking in and riffing on the outline. Right? Maybe I don't do any more development than that. I just do an outline and then I riff on it for 30 days, and that will give me the first draft of what could become an actual audiobook. Or could it be a series of essays that I put together that I package up into a thing on Gumroad, right? That's something I would love to do. What does that
Do you have an intern? Yeah. Do you have, seriously, Thunder Punch Daily? Someone, if they reviewed those, there would be thematic ties and bundlings of those. Just straight up, like very helpful.
And there's over 100 episodes, and it'd be very difficult for me to find the time to go through and listen to them all. And
it's a giant investment. But
what's that?
To do that mining, it's a big project in and of itself.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I have a couple like loose ideas that like, well, maybe I could do this. Maybe so. Okay, here's something I can put to the leaners. People who have interacted with this show a lot or listened to a lot of this show. Are there any themes where if you could hear me do 30 chapters on any topic, what would it be? Let me rephrase that. A very specific thing. Like if you said like do 30 chapters on comics, okay, what do you want? Comics that I read, comics that inspire me, comics, how to draw comics, how to write comics, how to design characters for comics, and also I am just so not. I don't want to say I'm not interested. Maybe I'm not interested. I'm not highly motivated to do Jerzy Drozd's Guide to Making Comics. Because a lot of it would be,
what?
Maybe, I don't know. Do you know? That's not a very good how-to book. So I don't know. But like, if there's like a very, if you could get as precise as possible as to like what specific thing would you most like to know how I think about it? Maybe that'd be a cool thing to put out to the leaners. You can message me on Instagram, Jerzy Drozd on Instagram, or just at Jerzy on Twitter. You can DM me at those two locations, and I will. Or you can email us at lenatort@gmail.com. There's also a contact form on the Lenatort website. That'd be a great way to let us know. Let us both know. What would you most want to hear Rob riff on for 30 chapters?
Yes, and yeah, I would love to hear that kind of curiosity, questions, and whatnot. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, take the show for instance. Getting questions and thoughts from those of you out there is it's fascinating and helpful, and it creates a form of a dialogue that we can explore, and in a way that this is taking that kind of dialogue and it, instead channeling it into future product. And not that this isn't a product, a podcast. It's a different bundling and different intention. Because this is a lot of commentary as opposed to chapters in a book and progressing through an overall specific narrative with an really specific intended outcome. That's arguable. Anyway.
But yeah, so that's how I'm thinking about it now. So how about we save a little bit for a final thought?
Yeah.
Do another ad break.
Okay, I like it.
And I'd like to finish up this thought of like, what are we thinking about doing for Inktober? What are we thinking about doing for our Soundoff? Just continue that thinking just a little bit more, because I actually have an announcement about an extra layer to the challenge, the Inktober challenge, that one of the leaners proposed, which I think is a really interesting idea. And we'll talk about that in about a minute and 30 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. But before we do that, We got to thank some other people who make the show possible. Those people happen to be us. We make this show possible, and we are a cartoonist and teaching artist and a game designer and user experience designer. But the thing that I, as a cartoonist, would like to introduce you to and point your attention to is I just launched a new webcomic with Dan Mishkin, of all people. Dan Mishkin, co-creator of the Ann Arbor Comic Arts Festival with me, also writer of Wonder Woman, Amethyst, Princess of Gemworld, co-creator of Blue Devil. He wrote Superman. He wrote some Batman stories, and now he's writing this comic that I'm drawing called Amazon Academy, which you can find at amazonacademy.net. And what is it about? It's about a boarding school in New York City for girls and Amazons to go to together, and American girls can learn the ways of the Amazons. And if you go to amazonacademy.net, you'll find the first 9 pages there right now, and it's going to ship pages weekly for the foreseeable future. And yeah, I've been looking forward to doing this project since 2012. It's been a long time coming.
This is so exciting to see this public. And yeah, collaboration between you and Dan, that's awesome. And the look of it is, it's I don't know, it's like this approachable, adventurous, and I don't know, strong and intense. I don't know. I can't wait to dig into it.
There's a pretty funny scene where the headmistress of the school gets ambushed by a couple of YouTubers who are trying to show that like all Amazons are just a bunch of man-haters, and the resulting conflict between them and the Amazons is pretty great. I love this scene. I love this character. It's got a pretty cool cast of characters too. Like a lot of, well, it's got a lot of what Dan and I like about character voice in it. As well as it's meant for, young at heart. But, okay, AmazonAcademy.net is the website. But, Rob, you make a game.
Oh, yeah. And it's called This Panda Needs You. And the game is essentially, it's a mellow puzzle that has to do with shape and pattern matching and a little bit of physics, because you're stacking blocks. And the situation is the blocks need to be stacked up, the way they were. It's like the solution exists when this little cute panda, goes through a bamboo forest and sees an arrangement of blocks, which start out really simple and get more and more complicated up through 50 levels of progression. And well, you see the solution, but they get mixed up. A cloud comes along, knocks it all down, and here you are. It's up to you. You need to help this panda. This panda needs you. You put things right. Panda moves along, and again, it's mellow, pleasing. Panda gives you feedback as you're progressing. You're getting close. Panda's dancing. Anyway, if you want to make this panda dance, you can go to this-panda.com and find links available for all the platforms that it exists, which include iPhone, iPad, Android phones and tablets, and of course, even Windows and Mac desktops. Convenient links right at this-panda.com. And it's
and if you do purchase it, or you have purchased it, and if you haven't given a review yet wherever you purchased it, please do that. Please consider doing that. It doesn't take much time, and it is a huge help to helping more people discover this game. There's lots of games out there. There's lots and lots and lots of games out there.
So many.
Almost too many.
But only a couple developed by someone on a podcast you listen to. So that's
so it would be helping in a big way to make the game more visible to people who are searching for games. But
yes, thank you.
Supposing you're here because that's nice that we make stuff, but you're here more about the way we think about stuff. Okay, sure. We got more things like that demonstrate the way we think about stuff at leanintoart.com/workshops, where you'll find self-contained videos based on classroom lessons that we have taught, workshops that we have taught in public, and you can download them at a price of your choosing, even free. But if you do get some value out of them, a really nice thing you could do that would be helpful to a friend and us is come back and purchase it for your friend. You're giving a gift, saying, hey, I got a lot of value out of this thing. You might like it too. And then it's also like tipping us. It's like saying, hey, guys, thanks so much for making this thing that I got value out of. If you're watching this video on YouTube, giving it a thumbs up right now helps more people find the show. If you're listening to it in a podcatcher like Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or what is it? Overcast.fm? No, is that it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wherever you listen to it, wherever there's listings, Google Podcasts, giving us a 5-star review helps more people find the show as well. We thank everybody who's been doing those things. It means a lot to us.
It really does. Thank you so much.
Okay, final thought. So this comic that I'm making for Inktober, I mentioned it, I think, a couple episodes ago, and I was kind of on the fence going like, I might not. I don't know, bandwidth is going to be tough. And it was a leaner. It was Carrie, Mushin Girl, who in the chat was like, do it. You have to do it. You're going to do it. And Carrie went, and I was like, well, okay. I'm grateful that you believe in me because I'm not sure I do in this situation, but it's cool to get that vote of confidence. But Carrie went ahead and developed it into a public challenge, and she posted it on her Facebook page, Mushin Girl Art, which we'll link to in the show notes, and basically committing to doing it herself and asking everybody else who's interested to play along. Try to do an 8-page mini comic over the course of Inktober, and even calling it Mini Comics Month. So you can share your posts with the hashtag Inktober and hashtag Mini Comics Month.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, like basically making a public proclamation to say we're all in this together, right? Because like we've talked about how like this whole like trying to make a product out of the challenge is you're setting yourself up for some serious frictions. So how might you navigate that? Well, if you know that you're in it with a bunch of other people who are struggling the same way you are, then at least you got that moral support. So starting out with a hashtag for now, who knows, maybe going into some kind of Facebook groups or whatever to cheer each other on.
That's really good.
So yeah,
wow.
Thank you, Carrie, for taking the banner and running with it like that. It got me off the fence.
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of like the foundation of how you are tackling Inktober then.
I think so.
Okay.
Today I think I figured out what the story is going to be. I hashed it out, and now tomorrow, Friday, I'm going to take a couple hours to do the outline, and if the outline matches the 8 pages, then next week I thumbnail it, and then I'm divide it up, figure out the math of how much I have to do over the course of 30 days to get it all done. And yeah, that's what I'll be doing for the course of Inktober.
Let's see. Do you have something like that for Art Soundoff?
Not yet. But like I said, I'm hopeful that over the course of October I can figure out what topic I might do. And if I do figure it out, then what I'll do is I'll break it into, okay, what are like 3 to 5 areas that I think are interesting to explore on this topic. And then see if I can subdivide that into 30 little pieces, right? So if it was like 3 sections, well, there's 10 each, right? Just to start set an arbitrary sort of structure to help me make some decisions as to how much goes where, right?
That's really good. I can share what I'm thinking about for Art Soundoff.
Cool. Let's hear it.
So this just occurred to me today. Also, I might do a set of essays that that are about things I wanted to blog but haven't made the time to unbox, and I will try to make them very bite-sized. Then I think under 2 umbrellas, basically how I introduce myself on this show. I mean, I've got a pile of like game design and development stories and just experiences, like currently how I'm dealing with it this year. But then I also could rewind and talk about, where I started out and just sort of get a few, I don't know, a chance to talk for a few minutes. That's the other thing too, is I really want to be constrained. So I might not be as fully rounded essay, right? Because to do a full essay for me on a solo journal podcast takes me between probably 8 to 24 minutes, somewhere in there.
That sounds right. Having listened to the Polytechnicast for years, that seems to be your range.
And then, like once in a while, if I really have to dig into something, it can go beyond that. But I try not to. It's that happens if I'm chaining essays of like, oh, I had this other topic, and then now welcome to another 8 to 24 minute chunk of the show. So yeah, so I'm thinking about like unboxing a few UX topics and then game topics, and some of that would be just personal reflection on like how I relate to this and when it started, kind of things, and then publicly shareable examples and events, and including like just this streak of like this year of the different challenges working on game development stuff. Yeah. Then
cool. That's good. That's going to keep this thing feeling fresh, I think. Adding that little extra bit of structure to it.
Yeah, I think so, because, well, I mean, for me personally, I've run through the gauntlet of our existing prompts a few times, and I've extended and expanded and whatnot. But yeah, I think, and I've done the other thing too, which I'm very open to, is just sort of a playful podcast experiment. And I mean, that's where I've done a few
punks.
Yes, Art and Science Punks, which is still going. That's Art and Science Punks podcast I do with my wife, Kate Shield Stenzinger, and she's we figured out a format for a show that made it easy to keep going. And that
if you haven't listened to it yet, everybody, and if you really like this show, you need to listen to Art and Science Punks, because Kate is so impish and playful, and you can hear her poking at Rob the whole time, and you hear Rob sometimes laugh in a grateful way of thank you for making this playful, and other times you hear him laugh like, ha ha ha, oh, you're pushing me.
Uncomfortable. Yeah, that's that's a special thing about that show. Right. So, but that came out of just saying, well, what if? And we don't have to commit to a giant side project or whatever. Let's do some experiments during Art Soundoff. Very much like the sort of mini comic month thing that Mushin Girl framed up. It's that's right, similar thing. It's like this. It's a special occasion. What would you do? Given this special occasion that makes some different use of it. And for me, that's what helps pull me in and keep me going with it.
I think that sounds awesome. Are you going to do, I don't want to belabor this, but I'm curious because I'm thinking about like what I'm going to do for mine.
Yeah.
Is there going to be any pre-writing? Are you actually going to draft out a list of topics ahead of time or no?
I will be mining, because working from an outline, because it's not quite the same as your forming an audiobook. But I could see, for instance, finding raw materials for a workshop or something, or maybe audiobook, right? But for the most part, it's mining. It's like between, I have a few places where I capture ideas for articles or start drafting or whatever, and they're not finished. I will, in the next, leading up to November, mine through that and make some kind of short list to make it easy to navigate, and probably have way more than 30 ideas, and then pick and choose as I go.
I also want to say, as like an underline to this final thought, the final thought is, we are to understand our perspective on doing this. Like we said, we've done Art Soundoff like at least 4 times, or at least 3 times, and have bounced off the series of prompts. If you're doing it for the first time, and we encourage you to do so, even if you don't share it publicly, or maybe just share it privately to like a small group of people, I would recommend like going through it the pure way first. I've been listening to like more of those video game essays by Mark Brown on YouTube, and he talks about like this idea of, I just finished one recently where he's talking about cheat modes, and how he's ambivalent on cheat codes because you're kind of going against what this game designer thoughtfully made for you. They constructed this experience for you, and they worked really hard on that, and you're trying to like insert some new way of doing it. But on the other hand, it's like, Well, but that's cool because players should have maximum freedom in the way they play the game. They should be able to play it the way they want. But if they do that, they're missing out on what was carefully designed for them. I would use that as a framework for thinking about, like, if you're going to do it for the first time, well, we constructed it to be a fairly easy thing for an initiate to do. And there's even like different ways to, we created different tiers of like, okay, here's different ways to think about doing it for the first time. And the prompts are there to say, like, we're even going to guide you into giving you like a little nudge saying, talk about this, right? I would recommend like thinking about doing it that way first before diving in and hacking it up. Anything that you would add to that, Rob?
Well, I mean, we do have a few different sort of recipes and approaches.
Yeah.
If you go to artsoundoff.com, you'll get directed straight to this landing page with some prompt topics and a couple of suggestions for or like what might be, you know, approachable ways, saying like, well, maybe you do 8 episodes, maybe you do, you know, 2 or what have you, half the month, and then just pick and choose. And again, it's not heavy-handed prescriptive, but we designed it to try to share our love and appreciation for journaling and journaling as a creator. So you can get other stuff out of it too. That's awesome, right? But if you're curious about that in particular, we've got a good foothold for you.
Yeah. And it says on the current page, which we haven't updated since last year, that that is Art Soundoff 4.0. So this will be the 5th year we've done it.
Wow. So we did it in what? So
2013.
2013? 13, 14?
14, 15, 16. No, be 14.
So,
14, 15, 16, 17.
Gotcha.
Right.
All right.
2014. Wow. All right. Hey, guess what? I think we did a podcast, Rob.
Yeah. Podcast has happened.
Podcast completed. Oh, we need to upgrade the show eventually, which we're working on that in the background. It's like finding ways to like up the production value of the show. And I think like we're going to have like a podcast completed stinger that we play with like a little animation machinery moving.
Celebratory music. Dun, 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 dun.
A variety of things. We could have all sorts of different playful things. All right, so all the stuff we talked about will be linked in the show notes. Mini Comics Month and Art Soundoff and Inktober and thanks everybody for downloading, watching, and listening. Thanks to Carrie and Robert for hanging out in the chat with us and talking with us today. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerzy. And yeah, thanks for those of you hanging out with us. It's awesome having the conversation.
And the show is recorded every Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and then collected as a podcast. Streamed live on YouTube, then collected as a podcast at patreon.com/leanintoart. And until next time, I have been Jerzy Drozd of leanintoart.com and Jerzy Drozd on Instagram. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Who are you, Rob?
Well, I have been and am Rob Stenzinger of leanintoart.com and Rob Stenzinger on Instagram.
Okay, bye.
Show notes for this episode can be found at leanintoart.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at the user leanintoart, and you can reach us via email at leanintoart@gmail.com. And remember, leaners aren't wieners. Thanks for listening.
All right, I'm going to turn off the live stream. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.